Hi, welcome to the Art of Being a Gracious Diva. Thank you so much for coming. Say hi to Stasha.
I got out my Diva red lipstick just for today.
That's amazing. Yes, I also broke out the lipstick, and people that know me know that I don't often break out anything that that takes the work. But, I had a special event and a super special guest. Stasha is the owner of the Period Coach LLC. She is a period coach and the bloody kind, not the grammar kind. She's founded the Period Coaching School. She certifies coaches to incorporate menstrual cycles into their work. Sasha is also a dancer, a cook, a sword fighter, a Tai Chi practicing speaker, author, skateboarder, INTJ, flower mouth, football loving, digital nomad. She is a certified holistic health coach, and 20 plus years of research has fueled her passion to reconnect with women to the power in their period. Sasha is leading the bloody revolution to end the taboo of menstruation worldwide. No longer whispers in bathrooms. She's leading powerful public discussions, which is why she's absolutely perfect for our Art of Being a Gracious Diva. Thank you so much for coming, Stasha.
I'm so happy to be here. This is fantastic. And what a juicy topic. It's not something I get to talk about or think about very much. And I just absolutely adored nerding out on this.
Yeah, I mean, we already had kind of a conversation because Stasha's also my business coach. And she heard the idea and she was like, oh, that's a great idea. And then she proceeded to talk about it with her clients. And they were like, that's a great idea. And so it became a rush to the finish because I was like, you know what? If we're going to do this, let's do it in International Women's Month, right?
Yeah.
Why not? So it was just, when we had all that going on and when I gave the idea, it's not the first time I've had the idea, but it's the first time I felt that kind of energy behind it, right? And so it was just the right idea at the right time. Can you tell me a little bit about the conversations that you had with your clients that brought it
Oh
up?
my God, it was hilarious. I had back-to-back clients. You're my first one of the day, and I had like six in a row, like everyone, boom, 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 boom. And every single one of them at one point or another had this conversation with boundaries or things that they needed to stop doing or a client they needed to fire or something where I was like, you need to be a gracious diva. I don't know what to tell you. It's not even my idea. Look, I'll send you the email when the landing page is ready.
Yes.
But yeah, it was incredible how it was the answer to one of their questions, but every single client right in a row that day. And then even the next day, I had a couple of
Wow.
clients the next day. And even the next day, it was like, dude, gracious diva, I'll send you the email.
Yeah, I mean, it's really something that comes up with my clients as well, but I have to be very gentle with this idea because it's a lot of times this is the space they're not able to create even to get started with their
Mhm.
businesses and their projects and what they need to or they want to get done that's needed in the world, right? And so it's really a much needed conversation because I feel like more and more our female colleagues are really understanding that they do have something big to offer, right? And they're just not sure how to step out of that old pattern of supporting everybody else, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, or being perceived poorly. One of them was like, well, I just feel like a bitch even saying that I need to get rid of this client. Uh, or, oh God, but I feel like I am going to be thought of as well, bitchy was really the word that just kept coming up over and over and over again. But I've also heard aggressive or complaining or these kinds of things in the history of doing this work. But everyone had this idea of what they were going to be perceived like, but knew that they needed to do it. Like,
Right.
knowing that they needed to cut that task or let go of that program or let go of that client or let go of that employee or whatever it was, they all knew they needed to do it, but they were all like, oh, I just feel like I'm going to be perceived poorly. I'm going to be a bitch, or they're going to hate me for it, or I'm going to disappoint people. And
Yeah, that negative, any kind of really like negative feedback because of something you know that you have to or want to do, right? And the confrontation itself. But I think a lot of times, even our messages, like your message, can feel like an attack, even if it's not. I mean, even with women, right?
no,
I, I've, I've
mostly.
I've brought up what you do with women, and they've been like, "Oh, like," and I'm like, "Really? That's
Yeah.
you've done that, right? So it's not like I'm bringing up something that's awkward
Yeah.
for you, but that's how they feel because we've been judged in the past, and we perceive that people will judge us for certain things, right? Like being strong minded, vocal women, right? And you are excellent at not taking that pressure and watering down your message. And it just makes you stand out like super brightly and just like a diva. So I knew you were the right person to ask. What's your secret to not letting general opinion water down your content or change your message?
Well, my content's not for people who are closed. My content's not for people who are going to be like, oh, ew, oh, ugh, ugh. But they're not ready. They're not there yet. They may never be, and that's okay. They're not my clients. They're not my target market, and they may never be ready.
Yeah.
But hopefully, someone in their life who's a little more open-minded, who's a little bit more like, no, I'm gonna bleed for 7 years of my life. I kind of would like to know what that means, what that entails, how to, use that to my advantage, what it should look like. Like, actually, I've got a lot of questions now that you start talking about it. That's the person that I want. And, hopefully they'll inspire their friends to be a little less judgmental and a little bit more open-minded, maybe even inspired. But
Yeah.
my people are the ones who are curious, who are like, you know what? Actually, I do feel like I missed out on a lot. Like, I've got questions.
Like I there's a lot of things that I was never told, and you just assume that everybody makes do, and that you automatically know how. I feel like this is also even though I've never been pregnant, I feel like it's something that would come up around pregnancy, like people just not knowing. I feel like we were so much more connected to the process and other people's experiences in the olden days. And like now, you're not connected to anybody's process because who wants to hear about pregnancy unless you're pregnant? And then it's like, well, how do I do a pregnancy? And I feel like breathing, I feel like breathing's worth studying, right? We do it all our lives, so we don't really know the value of it, right? This is a weird jump. Guys, come with me on my random.
No, I 100% get where you're going with this. So, like, I can see the path.
Right? Like, because
Yeah, it
you're in
is.
this.
It
But
is.
yeah, like your period, you have your entire
Yeah.
adult life, and you just assume you should know. Like, I know how to period. I've been perioding all my life, right? And that's not really how that works. It's
Nope.
not. I was lucky. I had a nurse midwife as a mother, so she made us read the books and all the things. But I still have questions because there's other things that come up around it, right? We're gonna get more into that part, but what I really want to move into next is some of the amazing stories you told me, because you told me a couple stories about when you had your bar and that you met some like real life stars and gracious divas. And I just want to bring back up the people that came to mind when I said gracious divas.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this was so fun, and it's not something I think about anymore. So it's kind of a fun
Yes.
trip down memory
Yeah.
lane. Yeah, so I used to bartend in New York City and Los Angeles, and I bartended for probably 15, maybe even more over the course of those two cities, but for a long time. And I bartended at some celebrity hotspots. And one of them, and as soon as you said Gracious Diva, the first person that came to my mind was Nicole Kidman. She was, so it was at a bar that I worked at, and I thought she was going to be a real pain in the ass because her PR, her advanced team, like these people who would call and they would go, Nicole Kidman's coming. At the time, she was secretly dating Lenny Kravitz and no one was supposed to know. It was like, it was, like I think one or maybe both of them were still in other relationships, maybe, but it was not like no one was supposed to know yet. Like it was a big hush hush secret.
Right.
So her team would call and they'd be like, Nicole's coming in with Lenny. They really want a private table. I need to have a reserved space for them, plus their entourage. So we need a table for like 6 or 8 or whatever. And I was like, well, you're calling us because our policy of not calling page 6, right? This was a very small place. It had no name on it. It had dark velvet red curtains. You could not see into it.
Wow.
Could not see out of it. There was one single spot above the tables. So it was very hard to see who was at other tables, let alone shit. You could barely see the person sitting across the seat from you, like very dimly lit.
Very incognito, yes.
Very fancy cocktails. It was a martini bar, very select but small wine list, So our policy was we did not call page 6. We did not rat you out, but you were treated like everyone else, which meant no reservations, first come, first serve. If you could get the tables together, you could get the tables together. If you couldn't sit together, you couldn't sit together. And that was just how it was. Mm-hmm. So I had to talk to these people every time they came in. And every time they came in, it was, the deal. We don't do reservations and we don't call page 6. You want reservations? I call the paparazzi. That's the deal. You still want me to make you those reservations? No? Oh, what a shocker. Yeah. So I thought for sure she was going to be a ginormous pain in the ass. Turns out she was lovely. She would come in and just be like, oh, thank you so much. This is fantastic. We love it. Even if there was not all of the tables together. Oh, no problem. It's fine. We don't all need to sit together. When it opens up, we'll just move together. Not a big, can I just get a glass of red wine? Whatever you have open. Really like super chill and super kind and super gracious, treated the wait staff lovely. Like my cocktail waitresses always came back and were like, God, I love it when she comes in. She's so nice. Yeah. Like an absolute breath of fresh air. Super lovely. And then James Gandolfini, a totally gracious diva. Like he did not want to talk to anybody. He just wanted to sit at the bar and drink his scotch. And like he left alone.
Leave me alone with my alcohol.
Yes. And he was like super chill, but he was always very nice and really, very personable, tipped well, very good guy. And whenever somebody would come over and start talking to him, I would just go over and be like, oh, so this is my uncle from Jersey. I know he looks uncanny like James Gandolfini. This happens to us every time we go out in Manhattan. But he's just in visiting for the evening. He's not James Gandolfini. Give the man a break. Yes. And they look at me and they look at him and they'd be like, I don't know if I believe you, but they'd leave him alone. Right. But he was just, yeah. And he was so kind and he was hilarious because he had this little moped scooter. Just like James Gandolfini on this tiny little moped scooter was just adorable.
I love that because, the few times that I've met like stars, maybe just superstars in the areas that are like important to me. So I've met like people who and worked with people that worked at Metropolitan Opera and have amazing careers and are seen, in the industry with splashes and big names and all of that kind of thing. And they're always like the sweetest, most down-to-earth people. I feel like we have all these conceptions on what it takes to act as if in order to get to that level. And the people that are there, like they never even really thought about it. They just did their job and made sure that they were able to do their job,
Yeah.
right? Right, which like brings us back to like if you're talking about that, like the level of Hollywood star power, right? Like the level of that kind of visibility, there's those things that you do have to kind of put the boundaries on,
Yeah.
right? You have to put the boundaries on. But again, I've never seen somebody have to do it, or not, that has to do it in a way where it's like, oh please, just get out of my face, right? It's always the people who want to be there, but there's not the people that are there.
Oh my God. So we had a regular at the bar that Nicole came into who was on TV, but I don't own a TV. I don't often, there's not many TV shows I watch. And at that time, there were no streaming services. So it was like you either had TV or you didn't. And I did
Right.
not. And I hadn't for years, like probably a good 5 or 6, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And this kid came in and he would have drinks. And I saw him on the street one day and I was like, hey, Jack and Coke, what's up? And he was like, why are you talking to me? Who are you? And I was like, you come into my bar all the time. I'm your bartender, Jack and Coke. How are you? And he was like, okay, I can't talk to you. And was like an absolute dick.
Wow.
And then came into the bar and I was there. And I was like, what up, Jack and Coke?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm on TV. I thought you were just going to harass me for an autograph or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I have no idea who you are. You
Right.
are Jack and Coke to me. That is the most I know about you.
Yeah.
I don't
Literally-
care who you
that's
are.
literally your name.
Yeah, literally your name is Jack and Coke to me. So
But that's it. Like if it's the people, it's those people that, you know, they're just like, oh, okay, well, you know, all due respect, right? And can we just live our lives out here? So what do you think is what do you think is essential in those times? So how do you be gracious? Like how have you seen it done? How do you, you know, kind of tell your clients how to be gracious, but also this is where my line is. This is where I stand. This is the way I do business. This is the way it's gonna go, you know?
yeah, I think the first step is this really what I need? And get really clear. Like, I can't work with this client anymore. They're a lovely, amazing human being. I love them to death, but our time is done, or I'm transitioning, or I need some time off, or whatever the reason is. But just knowing like, this is really for my best interest, for my business best interest, for myself, whatever that is, letting go of an employee. I mean, it's not fun. I've had to do it. It's not a pleasant experience, but sometimes you go, this is where my business is going. And unfortunately, I know that you can't get me there. And if I get there without you, you won't be able to handle it either. So, having that clarity of this is for my best health or my best wealth or my best sanity, whatever it is, but this is the best thing for me, and getting really clear on that. And that means also sometimes you'll come across things that, you know what? No, that's not a big deal. Do I need to have that specific glass of wine from that bottle? No, I just want a red, whatever red you have open. Like, this is not a situation that I need to have specificity in, right? So it's like, I know the difference between this has to happen and we could figure something else out, or man, that's good enough, or whatever. So get really clear on that, step one. And then when you're really clear, you will have no choice. You will see it constantly. You will think about it all the time. You will know you have to do it. The weight will be big. Yeah. So move through it, right? Yeah. What's the best way to have this conversation? So in my practice, I take you through the menstrual cycle to figure out what the best approach is for these conversations. But the basic premise is, what's the problem? Why is it a problem? How do we solve it? And that's, how is it going to best be received? So if it's a partnership, how does that person hear best? Or how do we have conversations best? How do we communicate best? But how are they going to hear me the best? So like, if you're working with somebody, it's not at the very beginning of a session, or it's not the very end of the session, or you just you should have a vague idea of how these people can hear you best, or, situations. And then you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this process of getting very clear, seeing the situation from the big picture perspective and how it's going to be best resolved, and then going for it. And sometimes it works out perfectly. Sometimes it gets a little rocky in there. But if you keep coming back to that, this is really what needs to happen. Most of the time, most parties are receptive. Most of the time they go, you know what, I do want what's best for you. I do want you to be happy. I do want your business to grow and flourish. I do want you to be, whatever it is. So usually they go, you're right, I see the limitations here.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's move forward.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, when you're really having that conversation with the outcome in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think when I think about talking to my clients, that's usually where it gets lost, is that we always assume that it's going to not go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get stuck in the not going well and the negativity, and so we can't even imagine it going well. So we don't take the time to think about or vision, what would be the best time to bring this up. How do I want to make this approach so they understand where I'm coming from, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have it very well prepared or you're supported, and then you just like kind of either run in the other direction or
Yeah.
or it might not go well because you literally imagined it not going well, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's your best way of doing things? Like, I really like the format of email because I'm a New Yorker and I just say things. But in email, I can just say it and then I go back in and I put a few lines above it and then I go, hey, how are you? I saw your post on Instagram. The kids are looking great, or whatever those like niceties are that human beings enjoy. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with them very much, but
Yes.
it's a good format for me because I can just say what I need to say, but then I can step back and put in like the human niceties. And usually you need to start off with a nicety, a compliment, a thank you, an appreciation, and then you can move into, okay, now this is what we need to fix. And this is what I learned because I come from New York, where you just say things and no one takes anything personally because no one cares. And then I moved to San Diego and I made 3 people cry in 1 year.
Oh no.
I was managing a bar and I was managing it like I would manage any other bar. Like, this
Yeah.
needs to be done better. That needs to be quicker. You didn't do this. You forgot that. Like, and then I went, oh, I'm in California now. I need to tell people that they did a really good job first. And then I'm really impressed with how they handled a XYZ situation
Yeah.
and that they're so great and fantastic. And we can maybe do this a little quicker.
Yeah. And it's
I was like,
time.
oh, right. Okay. So I learned a lot of people skills that I did not previously have by living in California for a while. So that's probably good for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like taking that step back and going, okay, so that's the gracious part, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be gracious. I'm going to tell you what I loved about working with you, that I can't wait to give you a testimonial, that I will absolutely be an affiliate for you, or I will be happy to promote your work down the line, that I still want to send presents to your kids, whatever it is. And we
And
can't work together anymore.
bye. In the best of ways. But yes, yes. The other thing I want to get to before we leave, because you're absolutely the person to talk to about this, and it's about the power that women have already in their own body, and how they can get in tune with that by knowing their cycle. So, you give us some examples of how women can tap into their inner diva when paying attention to their flow, and how that can make them a powerful diva.
Oh my God, I love it. This is such a good question. I'm going to try and do this concisely.
This is the best part, guys.
So there's 4 basic phases of your cycle, but I have a 5 phase system personally, and we'll you'll see why at the end. But I'm gonna kind of go through it in a weird way. So the time before you get your period. So there's about 7 to 14 days between ovulation and before you have your period. And this is called your luteal phase. I'm from Brooklyn, so I say boodle. Like I want to fight you.
So
Boodle. What?
Love it.
It's been pointed out to me a few times, so now I just put it in. So if I say it like I'm from Brooklyn, that's what. All right, so I break it into 2 phases because usually after ovulation, we have a little bit of a dip in our energy, but we still kind of have the second wind where like we feel okay. We're like, oh, maybe we should wrap up some loose ends. Maybe I need 15 more throw pillows for my couch, you know, maybe a new bed set for the bedroom, you know, those kitchen cabinets. Like we just get into nesting mode and we want to like change everything and fix everything. We've got a little extra energy. So we start projects, but we never finish them in this phase. So don't start projects in this phase. But it's a great phase for being a diva because you see what's wrong very clearly. This phase is often confused with PMS. PMS is a hormonal imbalance, not a phase of your cycle. But it usually comes in the deep luteal phase. And this is right before you get your period, 4-ish days before your period. So PMS time, right? So when you go through this earlier luteal phase, you usually feel okay. And you're usually starting to see some things that aren't working right or things you'd like to fix or change or whatever. And then when you get into deep luteal, you get real personal about it. It's like everyone, it's like a person, those kitchen cabinets are personally attacking me now. You get real personal about it. Your partner not getting their dirty socks into the hamper is now a personal assault on your well-being. Like it's personal. It's time to murder them in their sleep.
It's like, we've had this conversation. Don't you respect me?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it's very the non-gracious diva time of our cycle. And that's fine. It's actually a tool because I really recommend people get a menstruating journal. So when you're in this phase, you just go, what's not working? What's pissing me off? What's making me crazy? What do I feel like is a personal attack on me? And what is working? What is really humming? Like what is just freaking kicking butt and taking names, right? So flip the coin in there because your diva needs to be praised. Right? She needs to see the good too.
She does.
So get into that what space and give that diva her space to bitch and her space to, you know, yeah, that's right. Yes. Yep, thank you. So give her that space to do both of those things. Don't do anything. Don't judge anything. Just write it down. All right?
Yes.
When you go into your menstrual phase, this is your why phase. Now go through all those what's that you listed and ask yourself why. Why is this not working? Why is this working? Why does this feel good? Why does this feel bad? Ask those questions. So your partner not being able to get their dirty clothes into the bin, it's probably why are you feeling like you want to murder them with a rusty spoon?
Oh my goodness.
Because you're not their mom. You're not their maid. You're not their housekeeper. Even if you divide up the household chores and laundry is your responsibility, getting it into the flipping hamper is not your job. Like, you're a grown-ass adult.
It's not the closet.
Yes,
room.
exactly.
The closet.
So, good. That's why.
Yeah.
Now, this is a superpower. Right? Your menstrual phase, you are able to see the big picture of things. You're able to see your hormones are at their lowest. In fact, they're most like a man's at this time. So if anyone ever gives you shit for getting menstrual, you just tell them, well, this is the most I'm like a man. So welcome to being with you 24/7.
Exactly.
Your hormones are the most level. You're usually the most open channel wise, you know, insights. I have not had a period and I have endometriosis, which means I have an absolutely horrifying period, but I have not had a period since figuring this stuff out where I didn't take an hour or 3 to just lay there and allow whatever needed to come through. And I have had an epiphany or confirmation that I was on the right track or some kind of really big download every single month for years because I gave myself that space. So give yourself that space and just trust that the whys are going to come through. It's CEO time, right? Every major CEO has an hour a day on their calendar where it's just free time for them to just read or think or write or whatever. It's your CEO time. You just have a bigger schedule. You have a couple of days instead of an hour once a day, or 15 minutes once a day, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
Why do the dirty socks make you want to murder? Now you know why. Go into the follicular phase and figure out how you're going to fix this problem. Your partner, you know how to talk to them. Maybe it's after a hike. Maybe it's after a pint at the pub. Maybe it's at dinner, casual, but you know how they hear you best. So plot during follicular, because this is your details section of your cycle. You've got really good ability to problem solve, detail oriented, little tiny things. It's a great time to like edit copy. Like it's just a little things time for your mind. So plot, how am I going to have this conversation with my partner that's going to be heard the most effectively, right? So plot it out. And then in ovulation, when your hormones are peaking, your testosterone, which is your confidence hormones, peaking, your estrogen, which is again a kind of a confidence energy hormone, is peaking. All of these hormones are conspiring to make you want to make people want to give you things. So there's a study done on menstruators in tipped positions, and they were waitresses and strippers. They made the most money during ovulation, even though they did the exact same job, the exact same dance, waited on the same tables, whatever it was, every time, every day, all month long, but they made the most during ovulation. So look, if people want to give you stuff during ovulation, ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Get it, Diva? Ask for what you want.
Ask for it.
Use the cycle, and you can do it graciously, calmly, when your verbal skills are peaking, when you're intact and coherent, not when you're in the depths of Loodle and losing your mind and losing your shit and being a crazy person, which is fine. That's what that phase is for. But it's not the phase for making change, you know? Like it's not the interpersonal change making phase anyway. Let's say that. So use that time to come around. Now, 3-4 cycles later, and your partner's still not hearing you, you go into that deep Loodle phase and you let them have it. You show them the fire.
They're like,
just saying, sometimes the gracious diva needs to be the diva, the fiery diva.
Well, I say anger is for a reason, right? You know, like it's not,
right.
Anger is for a reason. So just get in touch with the reason and then, again, speak to your outcomes. How do you want that thing to come out?
Yep. I know I had a mom client who was, trying to talk to the kids. And finally I was like, just let them have it and Moodle. Just say what you're thinking. And she did. And she was like, funny enough, I only had to yell at one and the other ones all went and did their work without me having to say a thing. And I was like, sometimes you just gotta let them have it.
They just have to hear you. And, sometimes a little strongly so that they hear you clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little bit.
But, if you can get things done graciously first, it's always the best practice.
Yes. So that's amazing because, the way that our bodies are already built into this amazing cycle of productivity, right? And that's what I know about Stasha, is that she says, she has 2 really productive weeks of the month, and she's still the best business coach that I could find, right? Like she is doing it, she has a full business, right? And so if that can happen, right, maybe we're working too hard on the wrong things.
Exactly.
Being in flow with yourself and the way you do things really does give you an edge that nothing else will give you. And you can get your time back. Time back. Yeah.
Every phase has its power. So it's like, even when I'm in that menstrual phase where, no, I can't talk, I can't even speak, like quite literally vocalizing hurts me. The cramps I'm in a place that I like to call remission. The fatigue, I don't think will ever go. The painful cramps have pretty much dissolved. But if I try to push, if I try to speak, if I try to get up, if I try to interact in any way, cramps immediately on the floor in pain. So there's a good 3 days where I'm basically just like, I'm gonna Netflix binge. I actually like save shows for these 3 days so I can just binge something for these couple of days. But I give myself the
Yes.
space as well. And the period coaching school concept came to me, the clarity month after month of what it looked like. I mean, I spent a good year just allowing it to come to me in my menstrual phase before I even started putting anything, I mean, on paper, like, myself, before I even started putting it out there in the world. I just let it come to me in these downloads every single month. And this is 100% the legacy that, I mean, I sat down with a lawyer and said, how do we make this so that when I die, it can continue?
Yeah.
I want this to be something that goes until it's no longer needed. So, how do we go about setting this up from the beginning to be a legacy that lives on long past my death, right?
Right.
That's because I gave myself a space to be in that time. And every phase has a power where you could be more on track, more clear, more on the path versus, oh, I should do this. Oh, my client wants this. Oh, I think I need this. Oh, you know what? I saw a marketer use this term. Oh, you know what? I saw one of them make a blueprint. I should make a blueprint. 15,000 free opt-ins later, and none of them convert over 30%.
Yes.
Way to spend a year,
Yes.
right?
Yes. When you can just be tapping in during the time that you can and just building that. A lot of my stuff that looks good, I have people that ask me, like, well, how did you do that? Well, it's because I didn't just start thinking about it yesterday. It started in October, this idea, right? I just was able to put all the technical and visual and all that stuff together in a week because I already knew what I wanted to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference. I just love that you are creating this legacy. It's exactly, again, that's why she is perfect for this, the art of being a gracious diva, because she's taken what she knows she has to offer. She knows the value of it, and she's not only gone out there and said it her way and done it the way it needs to be done, but she's also gotten the support and the structure to make it the legacy that it deserves to be and that she deserves to have. So I just thank you so much for this. Do you want to tell them real quick? You have two amazing free gifts that they can get when they registered. So go ahead and tell them what you got.
Yeah. So the first one is a period tracking mandala. It's called charting, is what we call it in the biz, where you're basically just taking a little note. I created it as a mandala because, frankly, spreadsheets are spreadsheets. Can I say more?
Yeah.
So I made a mandala where you could actually color things and let them, associate for you how it works best for your mind. And it takes like 2 minutes a day. And you start small so that it doesn't take more than 2 minutes a day. You'll get email support, I promise. So you basically just chart your cycle, and then you can start noticing things like, oh, I have a lot of energy during this phase, or, ooh, the day after I ovulate, I have a real energy crash, and I kind of need to make some space in my calendar for a nap after that day, right? So you can start seeing your energy levels, your moods, how things shift, even, what you ate and how that affected your digestion, how that affected your mood, your energy. So you can see all of it on one sheet of paper, which is what apps can't do. They can't make those correlations for you, and they can't show you them either. So it's
Yeah.
really just a way of getting around that system. Also, mind body connection. When you're sitting down and you're coloring this thing out, you can think back in your brain like, okay, I'm on day 22, and I know that because I'm here on my chart. And I know that day 14 is the peak, and I'm over here. So I'm day 22, 21. I remember coloring in that I didn't sleep well last night. And you can really come up, like you're in the doctor's office or the acupuncturist or the chiropractor or whatever. It's
Yeah.
there in your mind versus going, oh, I don't know. Let me see what my app has to say. So
Well,
what's
and
actually going on in
when
your
you're
body.
just totally clueless, like that was pretty
Yeah.
much me for the majority of my life. And then when I started actually doing the tracking, it was hard because I didn't do all the days, but I still got so much
Yeah.
out of it because then when you told me well, what's your next ovulation phase? Plan the thing around that, don't plan on doing too much, whatever. So you
Mm-hmm.
might as well get this part done now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though I hadn't really been tracking that during that time, I could look back to the one day that I did have, and I was like, oh, that is that day. Oh, you know what? I do think I'm going to do it a couple days after, so I don't have that 10 I take a nap feeling, which I do get like right before.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was perfect. And even if you don't do it perfectly, it builds, and it's the
No,
ability to track your
I
own
don't even
fertility.
do it perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I am the period coach and I don't do it perfectly. Like, you have absolute permission to do it imperfectly. I don't do
Well,
it
we
perfectly.
need
So
permission up here in my camp. We're like, okay, but I'm a perfectionist, but it's
if I
like
don't do it
I want to do
perfectly,
it
then I'm not.
right. Yeah,
I
that
know.
so we do. So
No,
permission granted.
permission granted. Here's my magic wand. Ding! Permission granted.
Ding.
Don't do it perfectly. Just do as much as you can, and that's all that matters. And the second one is a sample of my book. So if you are interested in knowing more about cycles, I wrote a book that basically tells you how we got here, so separated from our power, how our cycles are supposed to be, how they're supposed to feel, how they're supposed to look, all of that good stuff, and how you can be more in balance, but through pleasure, not through punishment. So nothing in my book is going to be like, okay, now you have to run a marathon every week. No, it's all through pleasure. And then lastly, how you can help, how you can influence, how you can be an activist, how you can do really easy little tiny things that will make a cumulatively big difference. So I gave you basically a sample of my intro and my preface, so you can get an idea of how I write and who it's for and how you can use this book to your advantage. And then if you feel like, oh yeah, that jives, you can pick up your own copy and grab it. But then if you read it and you go, oh God, no, this lady swears, I'm not reading this, I'm anti-swearing or whatever, you can not buy it because there's cuss words in there.
Just yes, that's a couple. But
Yeah.
that's what I love about you, that you can keep it real, and that you can and still be a diva. That's that gracious part again, guys. Like so yes, thank you so much, Stasha, and do like get the stuff. Her book is amazing. The writing is really excellent and engaging. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see you on Friday.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right.